In 1912, in northern France, Horty, a foundry worker, finishes first in his workplace race, making him champion for the third time in a row. Because of this, Simeon, the company president, gives him the privilege of attending the departure of the Titanic. Horty's wife, Zoe, shows a slight tinge of disappointment on her face as she expected them to win a bigger prize, something that would help them move to a better neighborhood. After the event, Horty asks Simeon if Zoe will accompany him, but the president takes offense at his question. He interprets it as a request, so he tells Horty that he only sponsored his trip because it cost him a fortune. Before leaving, Simeon hands him his ticket and wishes him a safe journey. On the way home, Simeon's secretary, Manier, reminds him that they had in fact purchased 2 tickets to England, but Simeon explains that he only provided 1 ticket because he wanted to benefit Zoe without Horty's interference. The next day, at a fancy hotel in Southampton, Pascal is curious about Horty's nationality, and he reveals that he is French. This makes Pascal wonder why he is staying in England, and Horty tells him that he is there to watch the Titanic depart. Later in Horty's room, he hears a knock on the door, forcing him to check on his visitor. Outside, a woman shyly tells Horty that she is a chambermaid who is due to depart on the Titanic tomorrow. However, she feels helpless as she does not know where to spend the night since all the hotels are full. Fortunately, she learns from a civilian that Horty is just passing through, so she asks him to vacate the room for her. The man refuses to give up the room, explaining that he does not know where he would stay if he complied with her wishes. Defeated, she apologizes and proceeds to leave, but Horty, out of pity, invites her to stay with him, which pleases the woman. That night, she occupies the bed, while Horty sits in the chair when the woman suddenly calls his name. She invites him to sleep beside her, assuring him that he will be comfortable as she does not take up much space on the bed. When she uncovers herself with a blanket, Horty immediately accepts the offer to lie down beside her. The woman expresses that she finds Horty's body attractive, but he simply dismisses it, saying that it is the result of his hard work in the foundry. Curious about his identity, she asks him his name and he provides her with the information she needs. This time, she introduces herself, and her name happens to be Marie. Despite being a married man, Horty begins to harbor a desire for Marie and even dreams of having an intimate relationship with her. The next morning, Horty is worried when he finds that Marie has already left the room. Remembering that today is the day of the Titanic's departure, Horty quickly gets dressed so that he can catch up with Marie. At the dock, Horty is relieved to find her, whose photograph is currently being taken. Although he wants to get closer to Marie, he knows that he cannot because she is busy performing her duties as a maid. So he simply leaves the area and allows the crowd to bid farewell to the Titanic. Moments later, Horty meets the photographer and asks him to take Marie's photograph as a souvenir. A week later, Zoe, along with their friends, gather around Horty to welcome him back from his travels. But Manier suddenly intervenes in their conversation. He tells them that Simeon wants to speak to Horty, so the crowd makes way for the president. Simeon expresses his belief that since he has seen greater things on his trip to England, he believes it is only necessary to promote him to tower maintenance worker. As Horty listens to Simeon's words, his colleague Gaspard reveals to him that Zoe is the reason for his promotion and that she was friends with our boss while he was away. This information makes Horty feel conflicted. For this reason, when they are at home, he refuses to acknowledge Zoe's temptation of him. The woman confronts him for ignoring her and remaining silent during their time together. Trying her luck, Zoe approaches him, hoping that he will give in. Horty, still angry at the possibility of Zoe cheating on him, pushes her away and starts to leave for the bar. Zoe feels neglected when he decides to spend the day at the bar instead of being with her, since it has been a week since they last met. She says that she has barely slept or eaten, as she has been patiently waiting for his return. However, Horty remains upset by the rumors spreading about her, so he wonders why she is wearing seductive clothing. She reveals that she set it up for him, but Horty is skeptical of her words, prompting him to storm out in anger. At the bar, Horty's friends pass him a picture of Marie, believing her to be his new flame. Out of curiosity, they ask him if he has already become intimate with her, but he denies it. Instead, he tells them that he just shared a bed with her, but his friends only laugh at him. Al offers to give him free drinks as long as he tells them about his experience with Marie. Once they accept his offer, Horty recounts the first time he encountered Marie in his hotel room. At first, Horty shares a realistic account of what happened the night he hosted Marie, especially when they shared a bed at the woman's invitation. But because his friends keep asking if they have become intimate, Horty spins a different story to satisfy their imagination. Upon returning to the hotel, Marie feels extremely hot, so she suddenly leaves the bed to freshen up in the bathroom. Noticing that Horty has followed her, she invites him into the bathroom and begins to wash his body with water. Unable to resist the temptation, Marie begins to kiss him and even confesses her love for him. In the present, Al believes his story is extraordinary, but Horty knows it is far from it, prompting him to stand up abruptly. He wants to go home, but his friends are disappointed as they want to know more about his conquest. An impatient Gasper tells him to stay and taunts Zoe that she might be fooling around with Simeon. Horty feels insulted and attacks Gaspard, but Elle immediately intervenes before things take a terrible turn. By evening, Horty returns home and confronts Zoe about whether she is having an affair with Simeon. His question silences her, arousing Horty's suspicions that she has indeed committed adultery. He wonders if she slept with his boss so he could get a promotion, but Zoe adamantly denies his claims. Suddenly, the couple hears Horty's friends outside, who beg him to continue his story about the maid he met in England. This time, Zoe confronts him about the woman they're hooking him up with, but Horty feigns innocence, concluding that his friends are making things up because they're drunk. Despite his denial, Zoe sees through his deception when she remembers that he refused to make love to her when he returned from his travels. Out of anger, Zoe confesses that she did indeed sleep with Simeon and considers him an even better lover than Horty. The man cannot bear her confession, so he leaves their home to visit a bar. Soon after, Horty lies to his friends that Marie took her to the Titanic to get to know him and give him a tour of the infamous ship. Based on Horty's fabricated account, he meets Marie again on the streets, and the woman encourages him to pursue their relationship because she believes he only lives once. She then invites him inside the Titanic and gives him a brief tour of the ship. Marie is the only chambermaid who has not yet helped with the party preparations, so she let him under the table to hide. Out of desire, Horty proceeds to kiss her, but their intimacy is interrupted when one of Marie's colleagues approaches the table. She therefore urges him to be quiet while they become intimate. Whenever Marie is working hard, she sneaks refreshments and food under the table so that Horty can regain his strength for lovemaking. In the present, Horty brags to his friends that he has brought excitement to Marie's life by fulfilling her desires. He lies, saying that the maid promised to look for him when she returns from America. One day, Horty's friends and colleagues at the alloy factory discover that the Titanic has sunk, prompting them to look up Marie's name in the newspaper to see if she survived the tragedy. In the tower, Horty is saddened by the sinking of the Titanic, as he believes it took Marie's life. A few days later, Zoe is brought to tears by Horty's cold behavior toward her, especially since he refuses to return home. Mathilde comforts Zoe, saying that their troubles will soon be over. She also advises her to visit Horty in the tower, but Zoe refuses because she is frightened by the sight of him alone. Like them, Al is worried about Horty's refusal to leave the tower, so she scolds him and encourages him to return home. Hoping to rekindle his love for his wife, Al explains that Zoe's alleged affair with Simeon was just a rumor, and that the woman loves him very much. Blanche, one of Zoe's colleagues, tells Zoe that Horty has gained notoriety in the bar they are in by recounting his adventures with the chambermaid. Mathilde accuses Blanche of lying and leads Zoe away from the woman, saying that hearing such a thing would only hurt her more. As they begin to leave, Simeon appears, forcing Zoe to inform him of Horty's behavior. She then begs him to explain that they are not having an affair, as such baseless rumors have only caused Horty to treat her coldly. Simeone promises to explain to Horty that nothing happened between them, much to Zoe's relief. Unbeknownst to them, Horty is watching them from above and, in a fit of jealousy, throws a wrench into Simeone's car, damaging it. The boss feels threatened by his actions, leading him to fire Horty as he believes he is trying to end his life. Days later, now unemployed, Horty spends his time at a bar where he earns free drinks by detailing his alleged affair with Marie. This time, his story takes an ambitious turn, as he shares with the audience that he found Marie's unconscious body on the beach after the Titanic disaster. He then asserts that he brought the chambermaid to the hotel room he had booked, where he tried to revive her with his kisses. Upon hearing such a story, Zoe, who is part of the crowd, approaches Horty and confronts him about the veracity of his claims. Horty is nervous about revealing his secret, but he confirms that he did meet Marie. His betrayal hurts Zoe, so she slaps him and starts to leave. Outside the bar, Horty tries to talk to Zoe, but his touch repels her because she cannot forgive his betrayal. Horty responds by reminding Zoe of her alleged affair with Simeon, but the woman denies it. Shocked, she blames his trip to see the Titanic for causing the rift in their marriage. Seeing Zoe's weakness touches Horty's heart, so he encourages her to forget his story with Marie. Zoe finds it ridiculous, knowing that Horty spread the whole thing on his own. Her husband finally admits that it was all fabricated, and he only did it because his friends like it. Furthermore, he believes that Marie is no threat to their relationship because she probably died when the Titanic sank. Later in the couple's bed, Zoe orders him never to return to the bar and share his fabricated tales again. She wants him to prove that she is the only woman in his life, and Horty senses the possessiveness in his wife's words. To make up for it, Horty begins making love to Zoe. It has been days since Horty last visited the bar, so a worried Al visits the couple's home. He is in disbelief that Horty will no longer share his stories, given that he has more time on his hands now that he is unemployed. At that moment, Gaspard appears and announces that Lou, the bar owner, is desperate because the bar is full. With this in mind, Al tells them that Horty's absence from the establishment will force Lou to keep the tips. His words catch Zoe's attention, so she demands an explanation. Al explains that Lou gives Horty tips, and he swears that it is a huge sum of money. Knowing that they need the money, Zoe announces to Al that she will let her husband visit the bar again. However, she has one condition. They must allow Horty to reveal that his stories are just fiction. That day, Jeb, a traveling entertainer, stops by the bar to hear Horty's engaging account of how he made love to Marie by dousing her with a bottle of champagne. Impressed, Yeppy invites him to join his moving theater because he can see a promising future in Horty's storytelling skills. At first, Horty declines because his stories are just fake, but Yeppy doesn't mind. Furthermore, he mentions that living in a caravan could be beneficial for them. Since Zoe was hoping to find a new place to live, she approaches the couple in the hope of negotiating with Yeppy, an artist who is surprised by her sudden appearance. However, he takes this opportunity to introduce himself. He shares his excitement for meeting the wife of a great actor like Horty. Puzzled, Zoe wonders why he addresses her husband as actor. Yeppy then explains that Horty's imagination is a suitable trait for such a profession. He promises to turn him into a great actor, but Zoe declines because she doesn't want him to talk about another woman. To convince her, Yeppy tells her that they can earn 100 francs a week. Without hesitation, the couple join Yeppy's group, and Zoe is overjoyed because she feels they are on the way to changing their lives. One night, the couple are relaxing in their tent when Zoe encourages Horty to make love to her as he did in his stories. Now, Horty imagines that Marie is standing in front of him, allowing him to present his story with more detail and emotion. However, after the performance, Zoe is so jealous of Marie that she punches her portrait, confusing Horty. He reminds her that she encouraged him to share his story, so Zoe expresses her belief that she is still intimate with Marie. In order for Horty to continue to profit from his tales, Zoe makes it a condition that she play Marie. During one of his performances, Horty's performance on stage improves. Giovanni helps him make his style more convincing with sound effects, while Zoe acts out the part where Marie allegedly disappeared on the night the Titanic sank. Once he finishes, Horty receives a standing ovation from the audience, which makes Jippy feel elated. He goes backstage and informs Zoe of the success of their performance, but the woman is not enthusiastic about it. Suddenly, she joins Horty on stage. Out of bitterness towards Marie, she covers the woman's picture with herself. By performing on the streets, Horty's fantastic tales of Marie give him the opportunity to perform on stage. As Horty tells how he broke up with Marie, he stops mid-performance because he can't believe that the muse of his stories is part of the audience. Marie proceeds to leave the stage, so Horty has no choice but to follow her. Gibby is disappointed in his decision, so he orders Giovanni to perform some tricks to entertain the audience. Outside, Horty meets Pascal, who turns out to be Marie's husband, and reveals that his wife was saved from the Titanic disaster. Horty is confused because he couldn't find her name in the newspaper, so Pascal tells him that Marie is not her real name. It turns out that she is a thief, and using a different name is part of her plan. Meanwhile, Zoe tries to follow Horty, but when she arrives at the parking lot, she is shocked to see Marie in real life. In Marie's opinion, Horty has a great imagination, and she is bitter that they are living off of fabricated stories. Marie therefore demands that Zoe hand over their share of the money. Back at Horty, he learns from Pascal that Marie was supposed to steal his belongings when they shared a hotel room. But because he doesn't have much, Marie leaves him alone. Moments later, Horty confronts Marie, but neither of them initiates a conversation as they are surprised to see each other. Zoe then returns to the parking lot with money in her hands, but is surprised to find Pascal in the car instead of Marie. The man asks her what she needs from his wife, and Zoe is stunned that Marie is married. However, Zoe gives him their share of the money and orders him never to return. Later, Horty returns to the stage and confesses to the audience that he is just a con artist. While it is supposed to be a disappointing admission of deception, Horty turns it into another compelling story as he evokes the audience's emotions with a colorful account of how he encountered Maria earlier. Metaphorically, Horty declares that he has killed Marie, indicating that he has broken off his infatuation with her. To make his act more convincing, he proceeds to burn a picture of Marie on stage and ends his act in tears. Once again, Horty receives a standing ovation from the audience, and urges Gippy and Giovanni to join him upstage. Yeppy wonders in confusion if he really loved Marie, but Horty explains that he did not and only used an onion to make himself cry. The next morning, Pascal is confused as to why Marie is so upset, given that they have the money. Marie remains silent as she continues to entertain the idea that a stranger like Horty could love her so much. While Marie feels miserable in Pascal's company, Horty and Zoe rekindle their passion for each other. Thanks for watching.